Here comes all the clouds again today. I don't think it's going to rain anyways, as there's a lot of pockets of sunlight everywhere. And what did I read today? How about this one? Was kind of interesting with all that talk about counter-drone measures. Apparently there's a quote mini missile meant to take down drones. This one says Sweden unveils 5K mini missiles to counter Russian drone threat. A Swedish defense company has introduced a new low-cost weapon designed to intercept Russian-made drones that have increasingly targeted airports, power plants, and other infrastructure across Europe. According to the Telegraph, on October 4th, Stockholm-based Nordic Air Defense is developing the Kruger 100, a compact, electrically powered interceptor that uses kinetic impact rather than explosives to destroy drones. The system relies on infrared sensors and onboard AI to autonomously detect and track aerial targets before ramming them at high speed. We're building a small electricity-driven interceptor which is only kinetic. It doesn't have any warheads or explosives. It knocks the drone down by coming at high speed. NAS CEO Carl Rosenden told the Telegraph, this means police can use it in civil environments. How true would that actually be? I mean, the drone's gonna have to come down somewhere if you smash into it, for example, regardless of whether or not this thing itself has explosives and all that. It says each interceptor costs around $5,000, making it roughly 16,000 times cheaper to operate than deploying a fighter jet for interception missions. And according to this, it can travel about 3 kilometers or so and can do everything autonomously. I guess it makes more sense again than using, for example, let's just say a missile or something like that costs millions of dollars to take out some $5,000 or $10,000 drone in general. And with that thought, actually, a lot of places are even more up in arms about drones in general. I know Japan is actually pretty strict as is in terms of who can and can't fly drones, but apparently they want to do more. This one here says Japan police launch talks on stricter drone rules. Japan's National Police Agency on Tuesday held the first meeting of an expert panel on measures against illegal drone flights in light of the growing threat of drones being used for terrorism and other purposes. The panel plans to compile a report by the end of the year on expanding the list of no-fly zones and penalties with a view to revising the drone control law. Yeah, again, it's pretty harsh as it is, even with the weight thresholds and all that. It's kind of crazy when you compare it to everywhere else currently anyways. It says the law was established in 2016 in the wake of an incident in which a drone fell on the roof of the Prime Minister's office in Tokyo. It currently bans drone flights within about 300 meters of important facilities such as the National Diet Building, the Imperial Palace, and nuclear power plants. The law was revised in 2019 and 2020 to increase the no-fly zone list to cover self-defense forces facilities and airports. Man, it must be virtually impossible almost for, let's just say, an average person to fly the drone and just capture the scenery and all that. Now, usually too, in these cases, when there are restrictions in various countries, for example, the drone has to be under a certain weight, this forces companies to try to innovate, for example, to make drones, let's just say, lighter so the average person can use it, and maybe that's the issue. Where because of those rules, companies have been innovating quickly, and it says, according to the NPA, drone performance has improved dramatically since the law was enacted. Even drones available at retail stores are now able to fly several times faster and carry objects several times heavier. Some overseas products can fly at speeds exceeding 100 kilometers per hour. I mean, that's just expected, but at the same time, they're just restricting everything, I guess, huh? And I guess what I thought in terms of things like rules, this piece of news was going around everywhere today. It apparently deals with that trucker protest that happened here in Canada a few years ago, if you guys remember, in terms of people not agreeing, for example, with things like shutdowns and so forth. And the two main organizers of this have been going through like a long legal battle ever since then, it seems like. And apparently today there was a ruling on whether or not they're found guilty and what their punishment should be. So as a little refresher, it was a person named Tamara Lich and Chris Barber, and they were the organizers of the 2022 Freedom Convoy protests in Ottawa due to things, for example, like the COVID-19 vaccine mandates that were out and about throughout the country, and they were charged with multiple counts of mischief related to their roles in the protests. And in August 2025, the Ontario court found both of them guilty on one count of mischief, but not guilty on several others. For example, mischief charges and counseling to commit mischief. It's like so technical, isn't it? And according to all the reports today, I guess the punishment is an 18-month conditional sentence and they avoided additional prison time beyond the roughly 6 months they had already served in pre-trial custody. It says the Crown had sought about 7 years for Lich and 8 years for Barber, while the defense requested an absolute discharge. And apparently the judge described the protest as having, quote, noble intentions, but ruled that the pair's actions caused significant harm to the community. And I guess because of that, again, it's basically 18 months of total conditional sentence, where the first 12 months is a strict house arrest, and the next 6 months, apparently, there's a curfew. And as well, it says 100 hours of community service, a ban on possessing weapons, and restrictions on attending protests or communicating about the convoy. And it makes you wonder here, do you think this is appropriate, I suppose, in terms of their punishment and this whole process in general? Because I guess the other argument is how it doesn't make sense when you look back in terms of how wrong a lot of officials were about things like restrictions and all that. And a lot of people would argue, I suppose, it just seems like they're punishing them for the sake of following through. Otherwise, it looks really bad for the officials and all that. Because when you think about it, actually, with all the stuff that's happening around the country and so forth, can you imagine spending all this time and money over this, where I'm pretty sure there's been protests where people got really violent. Yet in those cases, I don't think they went through the same process as well. So it makes you wonder, is it a double standard in that regards? But what would you think in this case? It's just kind of interesting. I'm sure people here view it differently than people across the world as well. All right, see you guys later.